Peg, welcome.
Thank you. I wanted to get on early because I didn't know if I could get on at all.
Oh, glad you could. Glad you could.
Yes. I'll just be patient.
I just love the baby so that I can eat all their food. Hey, you have fun.
Is that Chad with us?
I'm here.
Hey, Chad, how are you?
Good, you?
Good.
I just thought of it. Well, I have a Christmas present. I have a Christmas present. You do? Yeah, but you can't tell me. I don't know what it is because I want to give any of you guys this hat school because oh. Should I put my next? Let's do this again. Do you want me to take it out? Yeah, when you have like 17 different races. Love it. When you have 17 you don't count that? It's adorable. And I did. And the closest where your fingers were, like where your fist were. They were trying to roll us.
My apologies. I have a lot of kids in the house.
Sounds like a good time over there. Don't apologize.
Yeah.
I've got a Richland's iPhone. Could I ask who that is?
This is Clint, Troy.
Hey, Clint. Thanks.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, Linda. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Steve. Dave Turk. Clint, I believe Marty is going to join us. Maybe we should give him a couple minutes and let folks slide in here.
Sure, that sounds good. Oh, hey.
folks, we'll give a few more minutes here for folks to drop in. Mm-hmm. There's Marty.
So Troy, it doesn't look like we're going to hit a quorum, so I don't think we have to go through formalities of an open meeting.
We've got 9 of you currently. So as a quorum is what, 50%? Is that accurate?
Yeah, we'd have to have 11 supervisors.
This may be someone now. Bear with.
You're out here. And then we're on the call.
What are we waiting for?
Yeah, I've got Lee on the phone. He's trying to log in. He'll be just a moment, I believe. And it looks like Sean and Marty joined us. You can also dial in over the phone if you'd like, Lee. There should be a direct phone number to dial in.
Joys of
Hmm?
the joys of Zoom.
Take a look at your email, Lee, and try that route. And then if not, I'll give you the phone number here if you want to dial in on Yep, thank you. All right, Marty and Sean, folks, thank you. Marty, we have, we've got 10 county board members, and if Lee joins us, that'll be 11. And I believe he'll either call on the phone here or manage his way to get into Zoom. So that would put you at 11 of 20 of 11 of 21. Getting you a quorum, Marty.
Good, thank you. Are we ready to proceed?
I believe we can, yes.
Well, I'll call the meeting to order then. Our first strategic planning meeting. First of how many was it? 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I'll turn it over to Troy Maggie of Southwest Regional Planning.
Yeah, well, welcome, folks, and thanks for your time and your patience here over the last 8 minutes. We'll hopefully work the bugs out and be able to roll through this pretty quickly. As Marty said, this is the first of 4 meetings looking to create a strategic plan for the Richland County Board, Richland County government. It's part of a larger project that we've been working on around the county, and we're fortunate to be able to help you all and work through this. And appreciate you thinking of us. I'm going to toggle back and forth between sharing slides and not, because I like to walk the balance of generally seeing faces or seeing black squares. Let's see here now. Steve, can you see my screen? Steve, Carol, or whomever, you got it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll toggle back and forth a spell. I know you probably can't, can you? First of 4 meetings, today being the 27th, we're going to focus on mission and vision. We're going to dial into core values of the county and who you are as county board members. February 10th will be a meeting focused on performing a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and starting a process of identifying some strategic initiatives for you all to start upon. February 24th is going to be the goal and the strategy development. And then March 10th is implementation. Now there's going to be some crossover. We're going to be talking about implementation a little bit throughout the whole process, for instance. So these are the general framework of the meeting. March 16th, that's 6 days for me to turn this around, but March 16th at your county board meeting, I'm hoping to have some preliminary summary findings with a plan for you to adopt on April 20th. That's our timeline. The meetings are scheduled for these 4 Wednesdays from 5:30 to 7:30, and we'll revisit that time at the end of the meeting. I wanted to make sure that time works if we need to shuffle the time a little bit, but we're going to hold the Wednesdays. So that's our general timeline. As for me, I'm Troy Magid. I'm the executive director of the Southwestern Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. I've been in front of your board a couple of times. That's my cell phone and office and email. Hopefully you have received that in your mail, and you can get a hold of me really anytime at either of those numbers. Also, I'm going to stick around a little bit after we end the meeting tonight. So I'll be the last guy off Zoom. If there's anything you want to kick around or final thoughts, or if something comes up between meetings and you'd like to chat, give me a call anytime. I welcome that. So like I said, today's focus is mission and vision. We're going to really look at briefly the strategic planning, the overview of strategic planning, mission, core purpose of the county. We're going to go through some stakeholder identification, both the folks that are here and the folks you may not necessarily think of in your day-to-day work. Core values, who you are as county board members and what you bring to your work here. And then we're going to develop a vision. And there will be homework. In between each meeting, as you did before this meeting, you're going to receive some information. The hopes being that you'll have time to look at it, think through it, and prep for the next meeting. I thank those of you who were in touch with me and did that already. I appreciate that. I want to briefly pause on, I'll sort this out next time. Your role, county board supervisors, you're here representing wearing a couple of different hats, as they say. The first would be, of course, your county board supervisors. You're the elected legislative branch of county government. You're also members of various committees, departmental committees. So we don't have engaged in the process at this point in time, the department heads. So what we would ask of all of you is to come to the meeting as representing the departments that you serve as committee members. So things that you know going on in the committees, issues, opportunities, and so forth. So come to the meeting as committee members. Of course, you're residents, all of you, and some or all of you are customers of the county. So we ask you to think about the strategic planning in those kind of four frames, those four roles that you'll be participating in. And then the last thing I wanted to pause on is just some general expectations. Thank you for coming. I know you all have lots of meetings, to say nothing of your personal life. So I ask you to show up, and you're doing that, and I very much appreciate that. We're going to make good use of your time. Show respect. I think this hopefully goes without saying. I've seen you operate in your county board members and in your county board meetings and admire how they're run. But always a reminder, we don't know what's going to come out, who has what kind of vision or thoughts about the project. So we always show respect for whatever is brought here to the table as ideas. Contribute. I'd love to hear from everybody on the horn out there. And if you maybe not quite comfortable speaking up, give me a call, shoot me an email. We'll set something up. Stick around after this meeting if you'd like to kick some thoughts around. But you're all elected by your peers for a reason, and I think that's important. So we do hope you contribute. And then commit to the process. There's going to be something that's actionable that comes out of this. And so I ask you to commit to moving forward and implementing what we come up with. So I want to pause there briefly and ask of you all, are there expectations you have of me going into this? Anything that I should know or be aware of?
I was just going to ask where were the documents that you're showing us will be accessed from, and then is someone taking minutes?
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm actually, I am recording this. So we're going to have that, we're going to have the record there. So I guess, is that David asking for a formal county board, I can provide you with whatever you need for a meeting of the board. But this will be recorded and I can share that as well. I can send the slides around as I send out the next packet. If you kind of like the slides from this meeting, we can print those off. I'll make a note to do so. Yeah. I generally wouldn't have the slides for the next meeting prepared a week in advance. I'm not that good, but I'll send them out retroactively.
Troy, this is Melissa.
Yeah.
I would say an expectation that I have of this entire process would be that in the end we have a document or something that that we are going to be able to operationalize, so that we don't just have a plan sitting on a shelf, that we have something in our hands that will make it easy for us to then get it accomplished, I guess. And I'm sorry, my camera's not on. My web camera totally just died. And so I've been troubleshooting, trying to get it to turn on, but it's not working. So it'll just be my voice tonight.
No problem. And thanks, Melissa. We're going to touch base a little bit before we get into the meat of this meeting about how we're going to think about operationalizing and using the plan. And I'd like to clarify too, Southwest Regional Planning Commission, my bosses are 3 members from each county that we serve. And my Richland County representative to the Regional Planning Board are Melissa Luck and Marty Brewer. So the third gentleman's Ray Schmitz from Richland Center. So no pressure. I've got 2 of my board members here watching me, but I just wanted to disclose that just so we all know who I'm answering to and the different hats they wear. But they're here today, of course, as county board members. So appreciate that, Melissa. Any other expectations of me? Anything I should kind of be aware of?
Sure, this is Dave Turk. I'm just, my expectation as someone facilitating this is you'll help keep us on track, and the way you've outlined things already kind of meets one of my expectations. You're going to help us think about what it is we want to see happen and come up with a plan that can realistically get us there.
Yeah, you got it. And we over here at Regional Planning like asking uncomfortable questions because the future can be uncomfortable and spooky. And we're going to kind of poke and prod you to think about things and see where you are on different places and positions and help stir the conversation. Yeah.
I guess one more thing, again, another document, you guys developed some kind of proposal for the grant, and it'd be good to see that, what the grant requirements were that you were trying to meet.
Yep. There's a grant narrative, Steve. The grant itself is some 200 pages long. There's Van joining us. The grant itself is long. I'll send you the general narrative, and then if you'd like more detail, we can go in there. So Steve's referring to the grant. We did receive a 2-year flood recovery and economic resiliency grant, as you all know. Thank you for your match contribution. And that's helping kind of fund kick this process off as well. So I can send that to you, Steve. And I'll send it to the board as well, of course. Okay. So I'll circle back around. We talked about expectations. I want to pause briefly on planning, and some of this will not be new to you. Some of it perhaps will be, but I wanted to get you thinking or make you aware at any rate of regional planning's approach to planning, and particularly strategic planning. Oh, don't be doggone, it's still, there we go. Now, do you see the expectation slide? Yeah, right on, okay, good. The double monitor kind of still throws me off on Zoom, so thanks. There's a couple of quotes that I like that summarize planning. One you may have heard, it's Dwight Eisenhower, and he said that plans are worthless, but planning is everything. And now this is a guy who knows a little bit about this, right? The essence of this quote is that we're not going to sit here and I'm not going to tell you that we know everything about the future, and we're not going to come up with a plan that absolutely reduces risk and uncertainty into the future. It can't possibly be done. The conversation about the future, the thinking of strategies, the identifying our culture, the creating a vision, understanding our mission, that is really core to being able to be resilient, to be responsive and act quickly. And so that's the essence of planning itself. The process can be more effective sometimes than the plan. The other quote I really like is from the great philosopher of our day, Mike Tyson. He says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. I think we all got clobbered a little bit with COVID. And I like this. It kind of rings true that we need to create plans, not so much that carve out the future in stone, but allow us to be resilient, to bounce back, and to be mobile. So just a couple of deep philosophers on planning. In particular, strategic planning. Now, I think Steve and others have asked about the relationship between a strategic plan and a comprehensive plan. I can circle back around to that if you like, but I want to focus on strategic planning. And it's really focused on positioning the organization, in this case, the county, positioning the county to achieve sustainably superior performance. So it looks at a couple of things as we work to position the county into what comes in the future. We're going to talk about the things that we do. What does the county do? And we're going to frame this around problems and opportunities. We're not going to get into tasks, how zoning permits are issued, and those sort of things. We're going to look at the larger problems and opportunities about as they relate to what we do. And then we're going to look at how we do the work we do. So this gets into a little bit of culture, community organization, county organizational culture. It's really critical because you're going to be coming away with things, new things to do, probably, potentially, or better ways to do the things you already do. And it's really critical to ground our practices and our principles. It helps those leading change initiatives know what you expect of them, know how they are to behave, and it sets cultural tone. And then we're probably going to come up with what we want to do. New things, maybe there's some new service out there that you should or feel you should be providing. And that's going to be tricky, right? Because you only have so much resource. You only have so much labor and manpower, financing. So if you want to do something new, there's going to be tension there between doing the things you already do and making room for the new. There's a relationship between our aspirations and our capabilities, and that relationship needs to be thought of, and we're going to get into that too. And then lastly, we're going to reflect upon what maybe you should not be doing. Peter Drucker is a management guru, and one of the things he said with any good planning, organizational planning effort is you should always ask the question, if we weren't already doing this today, would we start? And I think that's important. Sometimes we have sunk costs, or we have baggage we carry with us, or we haven't analyzed some of the programs we have been carrying on for a while. So thinking about what we should not be doing can be very much the essence of strategic planning as well. So that's the strategic planning focus. A couple things that this is not. It's not a tactical or action plan. That will come next. As Melissa said, we're going to, between now and meeting 4, we're going to talk about implementation and how we roll it out. It's not a long range plan. Those are generally that's a term that's used for extrapolating existing operations, right? So as you create your 2022 budget, if you do nothing different, that's more of a short-term plan, but effectively it looks at what you're doing and how to continue it. And then it's probably not a get back to normal plan. I say that because you as a county board have already chosen intentionally to change your county government. You've created 2 brand new positions in the last 2 years, county and city economic development director with the partnership with Richland Center. And then you've created the position of the county administrator, fundamentally changing the structure of your government. You now have a chief executive in the executive branch of your county government, which you never had before. So I say it's not a get back to normal plan. I guess I'm following your lead there. You're already thinking about moving forward and transitioning. The last thing, to Melissa's point, and then we'll jump into the meat of the meeting, is using the plan. One of the things that we're going to come away with as we move through this is how to make sure this is a living plan, that we chip away at it. So right now we're in this blue quadrant you see on the screen. That's the planning. We're going to create the strategies and the big picture places where we need to be. From this, you'll move into doing. So that'll include potentially things like departmental action plans. It could be very low-hanging fruit, like budget narratives. Imagine if you as a county board and all your departments submitted a budget narrative with their budgets stating how their budgets implement the strategic plan. It could be incorporated into your performance evaluation reviews, into training requests. So there's different ways you'll be able to operationalize the plan, from creating new initiatives to day-to-day operations. And then what we'd like to do, we'd be very honored and pleased if regional planning could serve as kind of a facilitator into the future. Maybe every 6 months we come up there with some kind of a working team and this study act piece. And we take a look at what performance has been, what success has been made, what you've implemented and how it's worked. And then we think about if we want to continue doing it, right? So the plan, do, study, act, that act piece is going to include adopt or abandon or adapt, right? So something's working, you have a new initiative and you're going to adopt it. That's a new practice for you. Maybe you find something that it works all right, but you need to adapt it or tweak it a little bit. Maybe you thought you had a great idea and you didn't, and that happens as well. So we abandon that thing and we move along. So anyhow, 6 and 12 months, I think we'd very much welcome working with you, even if it's facilitating a meeting moving forward, but we want to keep this thing alive. So that's kind of the background of the strategic planning. Any questions on what we're about here or how we want to proceed? Something sounded crazy, something sounded right on. Anything you'd like me to know before we jump into kind of the meat of the meeting?
Anybody else involved in the accident?
I just appreciate your acknowledgement that we've already chosen to be different. Yeah, we made some pretty big decisions. We're doing our own wrestling with some of the realities of those decisions now, and to put it in this broader context, I think is an excellent opportunity and very timely for us. Yeah. And I, as my old boss would say, he was from Southern Ohio, he'd always say, I don't have a dog in this fight. And I don't really have a dog in the fight as to whether or not you ought to have a county administrator, but I like seeing it. I like efficient government. I like coordination. The investments you've made shows leadership, and that's from an outside perspective, that's good to see. Not that I have a dog in that fight. So what we can plow ahead then, if you like, unless there's anything else, we can move into kind of the first piece of this, which is talking about county's mission and core purpose. Any final thoughts before we dive into that segment?
Do you want us to hold questions and comments till the end of pieces, or just dive in whenever?
No, not necessarily. If there's something you got, Steve, based on what I just shared, please do so.
Just going forward, I meant.
Yeah. Oh, no, this is conversational. I'm not going to be talking at you. In fact, that's about the bulk of the speaking at you that I will be doing. So in fact, I'm probably going to stop right about now. And I'm going to ask you all as a county board members, excuse me, we have one more person dialing in here. Let me make sure they can hop in. Hello there and welcome. I've got a 604-200 number. Can I ask who that is?
Yes, this is Lee Van Landate.
Yeah, welcome Lee, glad you can make it.
I've been trying to get on Zoom, but it will not update, so I've got to do it by phone.
Okay, okay. Lee, we were just going over the general process, the strategic planning and some logistics. So your timing is perfect. And if you'd like, I can touch base with you after the fact. I guess I would like to ask if you're not speaking, everybody out there to mute and then unmute as you chime in, if you would. There's a little bit of background noise.
I'm not sure how I'm to do that.
I think you're okay. It's pretty quiet on your end there, Lee.
Okay.
Maybe I need to do it on my end. I think just muting your phone, Lee, would work, and then you can unmute like you would any other conversation. And maybe if you would as well, Mr. Burr. So what I want to
I don't know how to mute Zoom.
Well, we'll plow through.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know how to do it.
I've had experience where I mute somebody and it doesn't let me unmute them, so I'm hesitant to do so. I don't want to mute my board.
Yeah, go ahead. Mute me.
Here's where I want to start is mission and core purpose, and that's what I'd like to ask you all to start commenting on. What would you say? And I'm going to be taking notes, and then before we move on to the next section, I'm going to make sure that I've captured it all accurately. What would you all say is the mission of the Richland County Board, Richland County government? What do you see as being your primary purpose, your core purpose? General thought, a core purpose or mission is the very essence of your being. It's a fundamental reason for being, and it generally cannot be fulfilled. You'll never stop delivering whatever it is. You'll never stop needing to be county board. So what would you say your core purpose, your mission is, if you will?
Would you say it's something like our core purpose is to provide services to the, services being a very broad term, but providing services to the residents and citizens of Richland County? I mean, obviously it's more than that, but I think that's a beginning.
I was kind of thinking that too, Melissa, but then I was also thinking, we really pick and choose the services we provide. There's certain ones where we provide them and others where we don't. And we're taking everyone's money and then we're, hopefully providing a good set of services that are needed. Some are optional and some aren't. So.
Troy, this is Clint. Can I interject and just throw up a slide to kind of show a visual of kind of how I see things?
Yes, sir. Let me.
I think I can do a share screen here.
Yeah, you should be able to now.
Post disabled.
I think it's enabled now.
Okay. So this is a graphic that's kind of stolen from a lesson that I had in general government with Penn State University. And it kind of broke down the very fundamentals of government as being kind of policing and having a justice system established for your community. Certainly having those things keeps us safe from hurting each other, and it allows for commerce because we all have to operate on the same rules. And then taxation is certainly a part of it as well, as we need to fund government. And the other part of essential parts of government then is protection from outside invasions, outside interests and infrastructure. So those are kind of the three bits of it. And then the other part that I've kind of inserted into it is the growing kind of service for health. So in how I kind of view government, I view government in meeting those four pillars of function of policing and justice, protection, health, and then taxation as a way to fund it. And then kind of trying to line up then where our departments kind of fit in fulfilling multiple roles, or perhaps specializing in one type of a role. So that's kind of my first thoughts on it, Troy. The second part is when I think mission statement, I automatically go back to a military mindset of a mission statement, of course, addresses the 5 W's of who, what, when, why, and how. And so that's my thoughts, Troy.
Yeah.
I kind of like that little graphic kind of helps give you a better mental map of how things connect. But I would further add that the services, yeah, we have a little bit of latitude, but in general, it's based on state statutes. We're an organ of the state, and so in that sense, we're kind of limited in what we can and can't do.
The arm of the state approach, right? Yeah. Well, let me ask a question. Why? You've analyzed effectively the what. Why do you do this? Why wouldn't this be done by municipalities or townships or the state or a nonprofit? Why do we have value in the services you provide at all?
I think part of it's a function of scale. I mean, where it's a large enough region or large enough pool of resources to be able to affect change, but it's not so big and so large that we are disconnected from the people we're trying to serve.
So your services are delivered close to those you serve. Yeah, okay.
I think in some cases it's because there's been a choice made that this is something important. For example, we operate Pine Valley Community Village. That's not a mandated service. And we made a major investment in that facility several years ago because we determined that, yes, we provide that service. Yes, the community values it and needs to continue it. And if we're going to continue it, we need to invest in it significantly to make sure it works properly. And, you know, for those services that aren't state mandated, I think those are the kind of decisions we've seen made because they align with the values of those who elected us and who pay the property taxes that support those things.
I like that. They align with the values of those who elected you. Okay. Why do we care about the mandated services? And if this gets obnoxious, it's meant to be. It's called the 5 whys, so we're about 3 down. Why do we offer those? Why do you manage property records? Why do you have law enforcement? All right. Why are these services mandated by the county?
I guess for a kind of an obnoxious kind of response to it then perhaps is to say that we're looking for uniform consistency. The ideas of counties, I think historically was kind of established as the extension of the state and having a county seat that was a county side where you could travel to the county seat in a 1 day's travel by horse walking, etc. And then two, in my perspective on it, it stems back to the primary pillars of having a government is to have a seat of justice, to have a county courthouse that can be traveled to, of having a sheriff that's upholding a regional land for law enforcement, and all those things. Because while it sounds obnoxious, experiences that I've had abroad and say like in Iraq that was in a transition phase and didn't really have established government or governance, there's a lot of things that we take for granted when you don't have those types of things in place. If you don't have a safe environment, it's very hard to make a school system work when you're taking law enforcement for granted, or you're taking even not having a taxation base in to gather revenues for providing services. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, it sure beats anarchy to have a county government.
I think Steve, that's the mission statement. Richland County, because it beats anarchy. I think we're going to go with that. That's good.
Well, let's make our goals easily achievable. There we go.
There we go. Right. The low hanging fruit approach. So I like that, Clint. I like the uniform consistency. That's kind of the equality piece that we hope for in the democracy. Providing a secure place, an equal footing for opportunity. I think it was Steve who sent me an email to that effect, talking about the role of the county is to enable the population, empower the population, enable the population.
Yeah, and I think in general, Clint's point that making sure that our citizens have a way to easily reach the courthouse, to have the representation being local is very accessible, and that's important.
Good. Local and accessible representation. That could lead to some good strategies around communication. Why were counties initially formed? Who's the historian out there? And why were they initially created, and how have they changed, and does that matter today?
Should I be Googling that?
No, it's posing the question.
I know the Wisconsin Counties Association puts out some info about that when they do orientation for new board members. I know there are differences in the way Wisconsin counties are organized from the way they are in other states, like a Texas or someplace like that. And some of those decisions were made by the founders of the state very intentionally for how they wanted government to look and to be able to respond to its citizens. I don't know if Mr. Langrick, with his college experience, has any more detailed insight than that broad stuff I can recall from the orientation stuff I remember seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where, and I think I've listened to John Hockemer would give the presentation on the history of it, and he was amazing at it and very passionate about it. And it was like listening to a really, really good history teacher, how he delivered it. But yeah, I kind of gravitate back towards the accessibility, having a local justice center, having a local law enforcement center, having a local treasurer for taxation purposes, and all those other functions to kind of put it in a regionalized kind of a base.
And I think we can see that playing out today because Richland County is vastly different from Dane County. Identical government models and actions for those two distinctly different places wouldn't make sense. And Dane County is vastly different from Milwaukee County. So I think you see that manifesting itself in that county governance being able to be specific to the locality that it's responsible to.
Marty, your little blue hand is up. Do you have something?
Well, am I muted?
No, sir, you are not. No, I can hear you.
Okay. County government exists to bring everything together. It depends on your perspective. If you're associated with the judge in the courthouse, then you think the county exists to provide the court. If you're at Human Services, you think the county is there to provide goods and services from the state of Wisconsin and the feds. If you're in law enforcement, it's there to enforce the law. If you're at the highway shop, the county government exists to provide roads. So it's the role of county government to bring this all together. And unfortunately, every one of those things competes for scarce dollars. And it's our role to make sure that everything works.
One of you said something that I really like. So I'm from Ohio, born and raised outside of Columbus. Each county in Columbus, Ohio has three, we don't call them supervisors, we call them chair people. So Franklin County, the seat of Columbus, Ohio, millions upon millions, they have three full-time elected county board chair people, I believe is what they're called. And so if you track back, really most of the counties that were formed and the states that were formed, I should say the states that were formed post-revolution chose one of two models of government. There's the New York model and the Pennsylvania model. The New York model is what you would see in Ohio with about 3 to 5 county chair people or board members. And then the Pennsylvania model is what you have here, ranging from 20 to 30 volunteer, very local representative bodies, unpaid. I don't think you guys are bringing in piles and piles of money for joining us tonight, right? So I think that's interesting. What you all said is the structure of government reflects values somewhere along the lines, and you can think of Pennsylvania and the Quaker heritage there. And while they might appreciate a more liberal, meaning scattered about, as opposed to centralized form of government. And that's what you all adopted here. And much more representation closer to the ground, as opposed to the 3 people that I would have to get a hold of back in Ohio. That local representation. Well, we got some good stuff. We started broad. Let me read through this and I'll share my notes. And I want to be clear, we're not going to write a mission statement tonight. I mentioned homework. And so one of you lucky folks will be writing a mission statement for us, a mission statement or mission statements. We could waste and spend a lot of time wordsmithing and figuring out the right words. And someone out there is an excellent writer, I'm sure. That said, we're going to arm that person with some of our thoughts. And here's what I've tried to capture. I did it again, doggone it. Here we go. Here's what I've captured. I hope you can see the screen. Am I sharing the screen? Nope, I'm just looking at it by myself, Troy. Come on, guy. There we go. All right. Here are some notes that I took. You're here to provide service to the residents of the county. Yes. Clint's, I don't know if a Venn diagram, does that have four nodes? I don't know if that's the right term or not, but police and justice, taxation, health, and protection. Then, of course, you're the arm of the state. That's absolutely true. The state passes the laws and you get to implement them. Then we get into some of the deeper stuff. You're delivering the service close to the people you serve. Local government is relative, right? The regional planning is really more local to you than state of Wisconsin government, right? But not as local as county board. And I like that. The services are being delivered very close to the people. And so what does that mean? Down here, it's local. There's local and there's accessible representation. You can be in touch with the people so that, where was that one about mandated services? Non-mandated services, you invest in those because they are the services you value and they align with the values of those you elected. The function and the structure of government reflects the state's view of democracy, right? So you have a supervisor structure that's very local. The role of county government is to bring us all together and collaborate and make sure it works. So we got some themes here. There's obviously service delivery, choosing non-mandated service delivery based on the values and the values of representation. And then local accessible representation. So there's a place of where you kind of focus on being close to the people you serve. Anything else strike you? Why do you all get out of bed and come to the county board? It drives you to do so.
Well, if I could add something, I feel like this might seem a bit utopian. So, but I guess one thing that I think about when I think about government is that ideally we're providing a place because of the structure of the government and all those things that it includes, which Clint had very nicely laid out on the Venn diagram, that we're providing a structure and an environment in which the residents of this county then can thrive. So, is there economic development? Is there safe justice in the police department? Is there good healthcare available? Is there educational opportunities and so on and so forth? So again, I know that's a little bit idealistic, but when I think about why do we have government? Well, we need the structure and the security that it provides so that the people that are within that structure can thrive and, creatively in their families, in their businesses, and whatever they have in front of them.
Beats anarchy. But seriously, I mean, we want to live in a place that is a nice place to live. It's that simple.
Troy, when I saw the list too, I thought, I didn't really see on there anywhere like just solving problems that come up. I think like the water quality study we're doing right now.
But why
that's
you,
an example. What's that?
Why you? Can't the private sector do it? Can't the nonprofit? I mean, why should the county do it?
Well, I mean, that's going to depend, I think, on the optional service. You know, I think about the nursing home and a lot of the explanation behind doing that. And I think that's so that we can have good paying jobs, you know, for our nursing home workers compared to what the private sector would do. But yeah, I'm not sure exactly on the water quality thing. Sometimes I think it's maybe that no one else is going to do it. But I also think about like how I think it's a good thing to have county government represent some of our best ideals, or, you know, bring together some of the best of Richland County, like being, you know, efficient with spending those pooled resources. I think a lot of residents want to see that, you know. I'm not sure what other values there are, but there's along that ideal track that Ingrid was mentioning, you know, how can we represent what's best about our county's residents in Richland County government? Like, how can we be leaders in bringing out those best values that people have, whether it's volunteerism or just making sure people are healthy or whatever it is. But that's sort of a big picture thing. When I looked at that list, I didn't really see on there either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I like it. And I like the idealism. I'm generally a fatalist with a lot of hope. So I'm kind of schizophrenic. I like the idealism. I think we need more than that. I got a question. Sean, you brought something up that was great. To solve problems that no one else will solve, why will someone else not solve a particular problem?
Well, say you don't want to upset anyone. You know, say with the water quality study, well, we don't want to upset any I don't know, farmer or septic system owner or municipality that runs a wastewater treatment facility. You know, you might not want to ruffle any feathers, but you might say, well, the county really also has to look out for those residents with their drinking water to make sure it's safe, you know? So, I mean, I think sometimes it just the county sometimes is in the best position to take a leadership role with problems that other people won't take on or do on their own individually. Like this idea that we should be collectively acting. You know, I think Marty said bringing people together. I think he was the one who said that. And the county is really an opportunity to do that, to come together and have some of those difficult conversations, I think, to solve some of those challenges.
Sort of to be an objective arbiter of issues. Because if you've got a groundwater issue in Eagletown, I mean, Henrietta is going to pay for it as part of their taxes potentially, and so it's a no one is, you know, as opposed to someone funding a private consultant or something, and you get into, you know, concerns. John Adams always said that the perfect representative of a democracy is going to be someone who has virtuous disinterest, and he didn't mean that you're disinterested, meaning I don't care about the problem. It's that you don't have a vested interest, because you're serving all the people. And I like that. I like that idea of being an objective arbiter of certain problems. My question still is,
Troy.
Yes, sir.
The county can do things without a profit motive.
Yeah, right on.
We're not in it to make money.
Yeah, the profit motive causes a lot of externalities, and someone's got to clean that mess up. And then I think that's where our collective has to step in. Yeah,
it's wonderful as a motivator. The economy churns because of it. But yeah, there's externalities. I like that. I still haven't, I'm struggling to, why would you pick up any given problem? Whether it's groundwater or you just picked up the opportunity, excuse me. Jason Glassbrenner's out there in the ether of economic development, not a mandated service. Why would you pick up any particular issue to address as a county? The Pine Valley, you don't have to do that.
If I can chime in again, I think it kind of, government's role as it interacts with markets is if a market can't support a function, then you can subsidize it through government type actions, and you can gather tax revenues to provide a service. And then kind of along with that is if you have, say, one entrepreneur that is dominating the market, you don't have a fair market, then we have government that interacts to try to reestablish competition so that we do have a fair exchange of goods and services for currency.
And some things are natural monopolies. And so either you take it on as a government role or you regulate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Water utilities, sewer and water utilities being a good example.
May I offer something? May I offer something too? This is Lee. As I see it, we as representatives of the entire county together are like a mother hen, and each of these issues is like a chick. And we kind of underneath us would take care of all of these situations that arise within our hen yard. Pick a term.
Yeah, well, and does that go back, Lee, to the structure to, let's see here. Melissa, I believe, is in the town of Eagle, down that way. Is she really going to know what's going on up around Bloom and Henrietta? You know?
I suspect not at all. But that's why we as a group would take each of these issues, because what's going on in her corner of the county may very well be something else that other areas are experiencing the same problem, or maybe some variation of it. But I think we together would be able to approach this problem, like Marty said, as a nonprofit. I mean, we're looking at it from the point of view that we've been elected to represent the people, the people's health, the people's best interests, and I think that's kind of where we should be heading.
Yeah. Okay, I like that, and I think we got 72 counties in the state, and you've got 72 ways of doing business, and I think that's what we're trying to get at here, and we're hearing that you all bring your local ideas, your local values and expertise, and local issues to the county. And the fact that you're rural, you're going to plug into things that maybe in Waukesha they wouldn't do. Is it possible to imagine in Waukesha or Dane County a county-run nursing home? Probably not. You've got money, you've got more people, you've got economies of scale, you've got private businesses that want to operate there. So filling that void in rural may be even more important. Here's what I'd like to do in the essence of time. I want to read through these one more time and share what we heard and give you one more swipe at this. Let's see here. Oh, Troy boy, what are you doing, guy? All right, there we go. Nope, there we go. So you saw some of these: providing services to residents of the county, police, tax, justice, health, protection. You're the arm of the state. Some of the new stuff I've captured. Bring us all together. Let's see here. Create an ideally provide an environment in which the residents can thrive. There's good health care, there's good law enforcement, educational opportunities. They can, I can't remember what you said, Ingrid, something like they can thrive and creatively thrive in their lives.
Economically, basically every sphere.
Yeah. Create a nice place to live. There it is. To solve problems that no one else will solve. So because maybe the issue requires an objective arbiter, its importance to the county as a whole. You don't have a profit motive that may raise concerns of conflicts. The way the county interacts with markets is that if the market cannot support a function, that is, if there's no profit motive, then typically there's not a private sector looking to serve, right? And that's fine. That's how markets work. So the county can fill the void. The county represents our best ideals as you efficiently pool your resources to serve the county. I like this. You serve as leaders to inspire people to bring out the best in the local folks. I love that. Dispersed representative democratic model, which allows for kind of the local issues to gravitate towards the top. I think maybe I put some of my own language in there, but what I heard is that you all will listen to your constituents and you bring issues up to the county. Anything else we want to capture there before we kind of move on down the road a little bit?
I think, Troy, the only level that is brought in there that I hadn't really talked to, you asked, why do we get involved in this? Why do we come to meetings and stuff? because we care about the place we live. We want it to be a good place to live, grow, and thrive. Want it to be a good place to be from. Was listening to some conversations at another associated meeting that the city is doing with their planning process. And the mayor was telling stories of a few people who stepped up to do things. And they were asking him, why did you do this? Well, because I'm from here. Yeah. And I think there is that aspect for us too. We're from here. We want this to be a good place.
That's interesting. So in essence, the county board, county government can be a wow, that's fantastic. It's like a venue. It's a vehicle for people who care to contribute to the betterment of your county. Is that right? Or did I just make that all up, David?
No, I think that's an excellent summation of it.
Yeah, right on. Well, I like the ideas. So
can I add one more?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Not to make it sound patriarchal, but the idea of looking ahead, doing exactly what we're doing, thinking ahead of the moment, and kind of being kind of forward thinking.
Yeah, I think that should definitely be its purpose. And that's what this process is all about. I like that we look backwards. I think the tension between the past and the future is hard. It's important to have that tension though, because if we don't look to the future, we're not going to be prepared, and the world's changing. And if we never look to the past, well, amnesia is a lonely condition, right? We don't know who we are as a people. So I think that's good. I like seeing that woven in there. So here's what I'm going to ask at the end of the meeting. So keep thinking and I will spend some time trying to tease out from all this language some core themes, and then I'll send all the language. But I'll be asking here at the end of the session for a volunteer to help scribe a mission. And I want to give just an example of what I like. I like this conversation because it could very easily be our mission is to be the arm of the state, which is not inspiring. And so I came across this one. This is from Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae is a government agency that buys up mortgages from banks and sells them on the secondary mortgage market. And so, this is really what they do. We exist to fulfill our government charter and to participate in the secondary mortgage market by packaging mortgage into investment securities. Not really the thing that gets you out of bed every day and says, man, I'm going to package some mortgages into investment securities. But down here, and they're very limited mandated organization. Down here, though, is how they view themselves. We're going to strengthen the social fabric by continually democratizing home ownership. So you get at that idea of social fabric. We know home ownership is wealth. It enables people, empowers people, the stuff that Ingrid was speaking about. So we want to think of our mission as something that'll get people out of bed, come to serve the county board, and then hopefully inspire your successors. So we'll package this up, and I'll be looking for a volunteer to help us out. So we spent some time on why we exist. I want to pivot now to the next bit of our agenda. About core values. What we just heard is a great segue because you all are here in that last item in particular as a vehicle for people who care about their counties to contribute. I want to know more about that. I want to know about what brings you here, what kind of culture your values are gonna create and contribute to. And that I think through the leadership of you all, which was brought up as well, how that will inform county culture and county services. So here's what we're gonna do. And this is one of those, I'm gonna just poke and prod and get your thoughts on a few things. But what I'd like to do is focus on as a county board, as individuals, your core values. So here's some things that I think about in terms of core values. I think that they're fixed. So whether or not you're an insurance agent like Mr. Brewer or a county board chair, these values will serve in both roles. They don't need externally justified. They're very clear, and they're going to be valid in 100 years. And they're constant, whether they're advantages or disadvantages. So I'll give you an example. Quality, let's call, for me, that's one. I strive always to provide really the absolute highest quality that I can do. I believe in quality service. Whether I'm in regional planning or I go to work at McDonald's or whatever else, the highest quality is what I want to focus on. And it doesn't really need explaining. If everybody wants a really high quality Big Mac, and that's what we're going to deliver, hopefully they'll want that high quality product in 100 years. And in this organization, you know, we're a pretty lean shop. We do well. We have great opportunities to get grants and secure our revenue. But if we were to struggle financially, I would not reduce quality of what we do. Even if quality means I can cut corners and save some money and it becomes a disadvantage financially, I'm not going to shave that off. So that's just one example that I would share. And I'm sharing a personal thing here because this is a little bit personal and I want you all to feel safe and share what you can. And so I'd like to start listening to some of your core values that you bring to the table as county board members. And because this is personal, if you'd like to drop me a line or email later and let me drop some things in, I respect that as well. But I do hope you'll contribute. So with that, I'd turn it over and ask you all, you know, what kind of core values do you bring to the county board?
This is Chad. I would chime in. A couple of my key ones are integrity and servant leadership.
Tell me about integrity. Define that for me real quick, if you would, Chad.
Give me just a second. I got my children at my pant leg here looking for a phone.
And then servant leadership. Are folks out there familiar with servant leadership, that model? Yeah, maybe not. We'll ask Chad when he gets the kids off him to share again. We can come back to him though. Would someone else like to share?
Mr. Marty Brewer, you have your hand up. Are you wanting to say something? Or did
no, I can't take it down.
Thank you, Ingrid. There you go, lower hand.
Getting tired. Thank you.
It's getting tired. Good catch, Ingrid. Thanks.
I think that the servant leadership is really why we're all here, isn't it? That we're looking at our responsibility as citizens and as leaders if pressed into that role. Okay, public service, I guess, is another way to express it. It's been around a long time.
I look at it very much as we weren't elected to rule the county. We were elected to serve the county.
Yes, absolutely.
And this is Lee. I think the beauty of this group is the vast amount of experience each of us brings to this. You know, we all come from different backgrounds, different professions, different job experiences. And I think together we can understand each element of life or the community that may, you know, help us to come to a more vivid understanding as to what is needed and where we want to go.
So it's experience then, Lee? Is that your
yes, basically it's the multitude of experiences that each of us brings. You know, having been in the service or having, I'm personally a retired teacher, and each of us have different educational backgrounds or different experience backgrounds, professional backgrounds. And I think all of these things contribute to the whole. And I think together we become a very strong team because of that.
So not necessarily a depth, a long depth of experience in a thing, but I think you said the multitude of experiences that are represented here.
Right.
Kind of a breadth of experience that you bring.
And I think that would help us then to make better decisions based on our cumulative experiences. We can all share our successes and maybe our failures, you know, in the past, which may help direct us as to where we want to go in the future. You know, when one of the things when the heck was it? Steve Carroll, was it you? You talked about, you know, looking forward. And I think that's what we're all about. I mean, the past is the past. We've got to learn from it. We're in the present. We've got a certain situation. Things are continually changing. and we need to be able to put together our experiences to come up with a solution. And I think that's exactly what you're trying to do. You know, where do we go? What best things can we do to help everyone in our community?
Troy, I sent you some, but I'll just mention a couple here. One of them is leave everything better than you found it. That's a kind of a core value of mine. And then the golden rule, but apply it to groups, not just as individuals. And those are just quick touchstones for whether something makes sense or not.
How do you determine, Steve, if something is better than you left it? If we don't, if every motion is not unanimous across 21 county board members and you have some dissent?
Well, that's the forever challenge that you're always trying to decide, but at least you try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Troy, this is Melissa. So, I mean, for me, my core value with anything, including the county board, is always, you know, to pursue with honesty and being straightforward. Saying what I mean and mean what I say, kind of thing, is my real core value.
What if someone yells at you and you're honest, Melissa? Are you still going to be honest?
Well, funny you should mention that. That's happened. You know, I think
so far she's been honest.
For me, it's you know, it doesn't have to be an argument. If I'm honest with what I believe, and someone disagrees, I think it's okay to disagree. And what I do is try to present my perspective and the information that I'm basing my opinion on, and then the chips fall where they may. But I will always try to present all the information I have in order to let people know where my information is coming from, I guess. That's how I would put that.
And another side of that, Melissa, would be transparency. Then the modern term, transparency in government.
Right, right.
That was one I was going to bring up. Was one of my core values would be transparency, and tying in with that would be accountability. I just think everyone needs accountability, particularly those in government. If you're going to be a leader, you need accountability. Another one would just be, and I don't know if this was stated particularly, I'm not sure the best way to put this, but I guess just approaching, and I apologize for the background noise in my house. Just approaching everything with appreciating the intrinsic value of every person, regardless of whether you agree or disagree, recognizing the value in another person and in their opinion. So I think Melissa stated something similar, but just approaching every interaction and the way you even create policies or whatever it might be with that in mind.
Well, Ingrid stole my list. But I would wholeheartedly echo all the ones she said. Plus I would, and just building on something she said, that whole idea of approaching things with an open mind. I think particularly in local government, there's a temptation sometimes for certain people to get involved because of a core issue or something they're in particular either angry about or excited about. But where we are charged with being the representatives of the whole of Richland County, we need to look at things from a broad perspective and not let our predetermined notions sometimes get in the way, and be open to changing our minds.
David, diligence. We have to get as much information as we can. It's not always easy to do.
And diligence in following through on what we are charged to do. And you have to show up to the meetings. You have to, take part in learning before you cast your vote.
May I interject something at this point? This is Lee.
Yes,
I completely agree with what Dave just said. it all has to do with our ability to listen. I think too often people have a point of view and they are not willing to change. And I think it's up to each of us to realize what it is that we know that's truthful, but also realize that there might be other truths, you know, that are out there that we need to also consider and maybe incorporate into our own truth to change. This life is all about change. I mean, it's, you know, people want everything to stay the same. They can't. It's impossible. You know, I'm one day older than I was yesterday. I don't like that, but I am. But anyways, you know, we need to be truthful. We need to be open. You know, it has to do with what Ingrid and, you know, everybody else had said so far, but it's the ability to listen. I mean, too frequently people will not listen. They're zeroed in on one thing and they cannot open their minds to anything else. And I think that's something that really frustrates me. So, over and out.
What else comes to mind? Why do people elect you? Why do you hear that they have elected you? Why do you say they should elect you?
No one else wanted the job.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Sean. You've been quiet. Go ahead first. And then
I'm not sure if I can answer that question exactly because I wasn't really thinking about it too much. But, you know, the honesty one that Melissa mentioned, that's a big one for me. But then I think the flip side of that has to do with a lot of what people have been talking about here is just sensitivity. You know, you learn so much when you do that listening and you figure out what the different positions of people are. And it just takes a lot of sensitivity to thinking about a lot of different people, you know, when you're trying to come up with the way you're going to vote or a course of action on something. But also, you know, that I bring a lot of the transparency thing. That's a big value of mine that I try to represent based on things I'd heard from people when I was running. And then also just responsiveness. But I think, you know, responsiveness to the needs of, you know, residents as they bring them up, but also responsiveness to the issues that other county board supervisors or staff bring up. And you really have to get your head around how complex things are, I think, you know, as you become sensitive to the different issues and try to respond to them. That's just one of the values. I think you just have to be willing to educate yourself and learn about the complexity of the issues that we're facing.
Thanks, Sean. Lee, did you have something more? No. Okay. What makes you proud to serve the county? Anything? You know, and here's what I'm trying to get at. We talked about in at the mission and purpose. What came up from you is the importance of local representation, close democracy to the people you serve. That was a big part of the mission of the county, is to be close to the people. I wonder if that makes it way into your values. You know, what makes you proud to serve the county based on the people you see?
Once in a while, I get a thank you, once in a while. And that really means a lot when someone takes the time to tell you that, hey, I like what you've done and what you're thinking. Then there's the other 40 people that don't agree with it, but that's okay. If you get that one thank you, you know you're probably headed in the right direction.
Well, I'm still pretty new, so I don't have a bullseye on my back yet, but I still feel that there's expectations. They're not directly spoken to me yet, but I just feel that sense of I have a responsibility that is kind of floating out there.
Let me share what I've heard. We started off with integrity and servant leadership. Oops. Public service. You value the multitude or the breadth of experiences that your colleagues bring. You want to strive to leave everything better than you found it. You pursue with honesty, and I tweaked this a little bit because that word better can be subjective, and I hope that's okay. I can't remember who brought that up, but I think that's really important, is that's a value. We're not always going to be right. Sometimes what we did, we find out was wrong after the fact, but are we striving? So I hope that's okay if I tweak that a little bit. We want to pursue with honesty. I like that, pursue with honesty and in a straightforward way and with candor. I wrote candor, sorry, Melissa. Being straightforward, I like that. Transparency, accountability, yeah. Recognizing the intrinsic value in every person. Being open and broad-minded. And then having diligence and follow through, which I like. That really gets at the nature of how you deliver the service, I think. And your listening and then responsiveness. Anything else that strikes you that you'd like to share? Something you're trying to instill in your kids, something that you're willing to struggle for, something that should be on this list?
Well, I hope that all of the board members participating here enjoy what they're doing, and anything that you do, you've got to get joy out of it, not outright laughing and belly laughs, but you've got to know that it's worthwhile and that what you're doing is appreciated. And I really do appreciate everyone's participation here. Thanks a lot.
Troy.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ingrid.
I guess as I was looking through that list and when you mentioned how do you deliver what we're trying to deliver, the word came to mind of perseverance. I just think of perseverance when you're getting through, especially in difficult situations and things like that. Continuing to persevere and go for the goal.
Yeah. And I like that. Yeah, I like that. And that's it's important. It's important in challenging times. I like too, Marty, that enjoy the work. And I'm almost tempted to put words in your mouth. And it sounds like for you, a core value is appreciation. Not that you receive it, but perhaps that you give it and have it. And I've noticed that as from Marty, very gracious as a board member on my board. So I appreciate that. I think enjoying the work is really critical. We simply do better when we enjoy the work, I think.
Yes.
Clint, you had a thought, I believe.
I do. It's I don't know if I can boil it down to one or two words, but it was a thought that came up when we had done like a very hodgepodge, quick under the gun attempt at our strategic planning just for this session. So in conversations that I had with supervisors, one point that kind of resonated was kind of the concept of a realistic perspective, or not becoming so kind of caught up in what we want the future to look like without, with losing perspective of where we're at right now, of truly kind of identifying what our community is, what our needs are, and building services around what we have to do, what we have today. Not losing sight of where we want to go and where we want a thriving community and these more investments and more economic development, but to still retain that part of truly, a true unbiased perspective of what we have today. So I don't know if that can be boiled down into one or two words of value, but that was something that kind of has resonated with me from our strategic cycle that I went through with individual conversations with the supervisors.
About clear-eyed pragmatism.
What I was thinking, Clint, as you're talking, was relevance. I mean, it has to matter. And if it's not connected to reality, it's no longer relevant.
This is Lee. As a retired high school teacher, I got into the profession because I thought that I was doing some good. I really enjoyed teaching. I enjoy children. I help out right now in Dowden School, and it's one-on-one, which is fantastic. But I've had the experience before. When I show up to class, sometimes I wonder why in the heck I even went. But you do what you have to do. You get things going. You make the kids do what they're supposed to do. And this kind of gets back to what Marty was saying before, that each of us have chosen to do this job, and we may not know that people appreciate what we're doing. We may not see what the end result may be of what it is that we're trying to do. But I had a student that I could have dumped out of a third floor window easily, and he was just nothing but trouble. And he came back 15 years later and he says, "Mr. Van, I really like you. You were my favorite teacher." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because you made me do the work, because you made sense. And even though I gave you grief, you did your job, and I appreciate it." And so the seeds that we plant now, whether we be on the board or teachers or whatever we happen to be, parents, kids later on in their lives will appreciate what it is that you attempted to do in a rightful way, and the best that you knew how at the time. And I think that's what we're doing right now. That's we're looking to the future. And there's not much else we can do. And like I said earlier, with our experiences, we've got a lot of background among us, and it's varied and it's fantastic. And I think that's our strength. And, as we look at what's here, we can see what needs to be done. And tomorrow, what needs to be done is going to be a little bit different. And the day after that will be a little bit different. So the thing is to try and keep up with what's going on and keep looking at the future, keep reassessing and realizing that whatever we do now in a couple of weeks may not be relevant anymore. So we need to be very flexible, I guess, in what it is we're willing to do. So that's it. Thank you.
So I've added that to the list. I've added enjoying the work, perseverance, holding an unbiased view of today, doing things of relevance. That's a good focal point. Planting seeds for the future. I wrote, Lee, I'm not sure if that captures all of you said, but as a snapshot, thinking long-term, thinking towards the future. So what we're going to do with the core values, I'll be distributing and handing those over to our volunteers who are going to write the mission and the vision statements, 2 different volunteers. And they're good adjectives to consider weaving in. Now, if I get a mission statement that just has 17 adjectives in it, I'll be pretty upset. So we need some creative thinkers out there. But these hopefully will be good guideposts to think about. So I want to take a break. Steve, you had asked earlier about time for questions. We're going to move into the stakeholder identification here in a minute, but I just want to pause and see if there's anything floating around out there that I may have missed or you want to contribute or additional thoughts. Good. And this is open. Like I said, if something comes up later on, give me a buzz. We're about 6 minutes beyond where I wanted to be, so I'll plug this along a little bit. I mentioned I'm a planner. I'm also a bit of a type A planner, so get this thing done. No. What I want to move into next, though, is really important. I think it builds on what we've done. We've talked about the mission, the core purpose, why you exist. And then we talked about values, which I think embody how you do that. I want to pivot and talk about who you serve in terms of stakeholders. And kind of gain insight. The term complexity of the things that you do can be complex. I would offer maybe too the people that you serve are potentially broader than we think of on a day-to-day basis, or broader than what maybe comes to mind readily. So my question for you all is to just start offering me the names or types of stakeholders you have out there, those you serve, customers, those you may serve. Who does that look like to you? And one way to think about this in terms of stakeholders is who needs or wants something from you, and from whom do you want or need something, right? That kind of relationship. It's a little transactional. It doesn't need to be so, but when we talk about services, that's one way to frame it.
So this is Melissa. I mean, I would say the obvious is that we serve the citizens of Richland County, but then we also have the employees of Richland County that look to us for policy and guidance.
Well, I'll summarize what I already had is that I think we need to recognize the future as a stakeholder, all of our descendants, all the people that don't have a voice right now. And again, this part of planning ahead is that, yes, we need to be in the moment and recognize our immediate needs, but we also need to realize that things we do now affect the future. So our stakeholders are our descendants also.
Mm-hmm. And that's a natural extension of Lee's core value of looking to the future and Ingrid's core value of her view of the mission of the county to provide a place for people to thrive. Yeah.
Troy, I'm not sure how much, other county board supervisors get contacted by constituents. I don't know that it's always a lot in county government. Sometimes it just comes up when there's something controversial, but I almost kind of think of one of my stakeholders as a representative is just people who are kind of disinterested, or people who I guess would have been like me before I got on the county board. Like, I didn't know anything, and so I think really just have to think about, I try to think ahead sometimes to what I might inform them that their taxes are going up because of some actions the county board took, but they're probably not going to care until they open the tax bill. They're probably not going to comment, so almost have to kind of think about, that the sort of way that most of us, now we know a lot, being on the county, a lot more than we knew, I should say. But you almost have to think about it as just people who just don't know a whole lot. And we got to serve their best interests and be ready for the feelings and the reactions they're going to have, which may be really misinformed, through no fault of their own. So.
That's interesting. That's an interesting pivot. That will get a little bit more about how you provide the service. And I like Sean's newsletter. I don't know how I stumbled upon it. You and I were chatting one day, but it's thorough and as objective as a newsletter could be from an elected official. I like it. Yeah, and so that's a good leadership trait, right? Is informing folks, or at least giving them the opportunity to be informed. They may choose otherwise, and such is their choice. Yeah. So we've got employees, we got future residents, our descendants, if you will. And then we've got citizens, Melissa, which I kind of broke out into voters and residents, voters and taxpayers. Is that maybe or you just, maybe it's just the voters?
Well, I think we also have responsibilities, not just to the people who live here and pay taxes, but to people who work here, to people who pass through and travel through Richland County.
I've got a lot of second homeowners up in my district, so that comes up. They're not voters, they're not residents, but they definitely are impacted sometimes by what we do at the county.
Well, they pay taxes, right? Yeah. And I like that, Clint. I appreciate that, because if I ever get in a car wreck, I want to know that Darren Gudgeon's going to come get me with the jaws of life, even though I don't pay taxes, right? I like that idea that they're recognizing the travelers and the visitors as stakeholders. Jason and Kate from our office are working on a pretty big workforce effort, and it ties into tourism with Marty. And so I think that's important to think about as you think about who might be coming across the county and how you need to serve them.
We'd have consideration as well, Troy, for our municipal partners, our school districts. our emergency response partners that we work with supporting mutual aid, fire districts, all of those folks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you guys are going to roll your eyes, but I'm still going to say it. I think we need to recognize there are lots of other parts of the county besides humans. The ecosystem is a stakeholder in what we do, and we need to recognize, not for its sake, but in our enlightened self-interest, it helps us if we are recognizing the needs of the whole ecosystem.
I really like that, Steve. That's, you know, we've got people, but people live on the land, and what we do with the land affects everybody. And I think that's, you know, why each of us from different sections, we need to consider, like we talked about water quality. You know, we've got the hills, we've got erosion, we've got, you know, we've had several 100-year floods already. And each time it's affected a lot of different things. It's washed roads out, you know, buildings have been destroyed, and, you know, we've got to maintain our woods, our forests, our farmland, our animals. Mm-hmm. A good part of our economy comes from hunters coming in for turkey and deer, and, you know, they may live in the area, they might have friends and family that come back or whatever. So Steve, I think you're exactly right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that could be looked at, Steve, as though the ecosystem is the end in itself or the means to the end. But either way, it's focusing. Back where I'm from in Ohio, there's the Maumee River, which runs across Northwest Ohio and dumps out in Toledo, and it's effectively a drainage ditch. That whole area used to be a huge swamp. And there's huge ecosystem issues that impact the farmers there, but also the wildlife fishing. If you're a walleye fisherman, that's the walleye capital. There you go, Lee. Take some of your tourism dollars to Ohio, right? But yeah, I think whether the ecosystem is the end or the means to the end, I think is I like having that here. Okay. Here's something I wanted to capture real quick. Kind of an exercise I was doing as I was thinking through ways this may inform what you do. Do you think there's a difference, and I kind of just plug this in, between what you might call stakeholders and shareholders? And does this matter as you go about your business? So I kind of did a quick and a dirty separation here. Shareholders being essentially voters and taxpayers, or stakeholders being employees who may or may not live there, commuters, your future residents, travelers through the county, partners in the districts and municipalities, ecosystems. Does that influence or inform in any way how you or your department heads may think about this work and operationalize this work?
Well, yeah. I mean, the reality is that the services we try to provide are funded by taxes, and the taxes are coming from taxpayers and the voters, and so they elect us. So we have to recognize that as a real pressure. Whereas a lot of these other stakeholders, some of the things we mentioned, don't have that same kind of voice or impact on what we do. So that's one way to say you divided it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like your list here. I guess when I think of those two terms, I think of shareholders as having influence over the outcome. Stakeholders are impacted by the outcome.
Yeah, right on. So you could put the shareholders as also stakeholders.
Potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And there would be a section of shareholders as well of when we talked about other municipalities and things like that, but state and federal government who give us big chunks of money and expect us to perform certain things with it, and we're held accountable for how well we do that.
Yeah, right. Okay. Okay. I just wanted to pose that out there, and I like that breakout, Dave. The one side potentially being the influencers of the outcome, and the other being the recipients of the program. Okay. Okay, so we want to move along and hit the biggest portion here, which is the vision section, and this is where we really challenge you to think about the future. And I'm going to turn it over to you again, but at the end here, we're going to have a volunteer help us craft one of these visions, and we want ideally a vision should be something that paints a picture, something feasible but also aspirational. Something desirable, a desired future state, right? So my question to you is, what are your aspirations for the county? And you can say the county as a whole, in the sense that the county government can influence this outcome, or you could talk about the county government itself, its operations, its culture, its services, etc. But what are your aspirations for the county, right? If you create this future state, will you be reelected? Is this a desirable thing?
Well, it's difficult to separate the future of the county. It's difficult not to talk about economic growth and growth in population, growth in tax base, et cetera, et cetera. And the county board will owe any success that it has to those factors. I mean, right now we can manage what we've got and try to conserve in places that we already haven't. I mean, the last 10 years in county government have been rough. Trying to hang on to what you've got, continue providing the same goods and services with basically a frozen amount of money. And so for us, the main, at least in my perspective, the main focus has to be increasing that population, and whether we do that through increased amenities, increased, a lot of people, we've heard lately that a lot of people are looking towards the county as a way to escape from some of the turmoil that's going on nationally, and of course the COVID-19. So, gee, I hope that's right. I mean, hey, we welcome you. Come on in. But our problem is we don't have enough houses for people. We don't have any apartments for people. So all of those things will happen if we get more people. And maybe all of our residents don't want more people. I mean, that's another issue too. I like the county the way it is. And I don't want a bunch of neighbors. So all things to consider.
Yeah. Yeah, there's tension there. Mm-hmm. What else? What would you like your successor on the county board to inherit? What's your legacy? What do you want your kids to see you have?
A balanced budget. I'd like them to get a balanced budget. Okay. And one of my complaints and objectives is never saddle successive boards with our problems. In other words, try to take care of the problems at hand and not push them down the road, kick the can down the road. And one of the ways we do that is by excessive borrowing. And I know that we have to do that in order to keep providing the same goods and services that we have. But it's basically saddling our successor boards with that problem because we haven't taken care of it. I know I'm being a little overcritical, but it bothers me.
That's important. Thank you, Marty.
What I'd like to see to leave to a successor board member is a county that's in shape to address the bigger challenges that, you know, as Marty said, there have been certain things we've had to put off for years because we weren't able to address those challenges, but we are making some change. We are making incremental steps We built the new Pine Valley. We have now a county administrator. So we are making some larger changes. There are other big challenges to overcome, but we're taking steps to getting into a position to be able to successfully address those. And I think that's what I'd want to leave to a successor, is a county that's positioned to be able to overcome its challenges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Dave.
Troy, I'd say having clear roles, you know, and I mean for our leadership, I think having an administrator we're really, it seems like we're moving very rapidly in that direction of having clearer roles, and that was pretty confusing for me when I arrived a few years ago. So I think in 10 years, it would be great if those roles were really clear. You know, what is a county board supervisor versus a department head versus an elected, you know, official countywide versus the administrator. You know, it just having all that laid out, it's going to make it a lot easier for people to get some of the work done, and the jobs or solve the problems that need to be done.
Clear roles among the staff so you can enable greater efficiency in the county. Yeah.
That's what I was going to add on to that, which would tag right on to that, would be an efficient and effective government. And that isn't meant to be a heavy criticism or anything. I think that we're working on that right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to the degree we can, right? It's hard to be efficient and effective and transparent sometimes, right? The Madison writes in the Federalist Papers, essentially they set the government up to be deliberative, which today we call slow. But there's a transparency in the dialogue. It's important.
Having said that, I hope in 10 years we've been able to improve resilience, flexibility, being more ready for economic volatility, because I think it'll continue, if not get worse. And so we got to get rid of the debt, but also figure out a decision and deliberative style that can react quickly.
I guess for me, this is Lee, infrastructure, you know, leaving future generations with something that's usable, both road-wise and communication-wise. I think something that we lack in this community is the, you know, the wideband, something that would allow those of us that live in the nooks and crannies of this county to, you know, be able to operate on a worldwide basis from these places. And we talked about, you know, wanting to have more people come into this area. I think one way to do it is to allow more people to work from home. I had a neighbor down here that was a person that actually worked in Chicago, and she was the one that assigned jobs to various workers in a construction plant, which was big. And she had 2 extra phone lines brought in, and she did everything at home via computer. Mm-hmm. And I think phone-wise, computer-wise, if we had the ability to kind of provide the basics for that so that they could improve on it in the future, I think that would be excellent. And I think that's something that we are beginning to do now. The other thing would be, you know, power, solar power, wind power. There's all kinds of controversy about some of the stuff, but I think there's an awful lot to be had here. We talked about, you know, solar power. I've got 140 acres here, and I wouldn't mind having part of it or putting solar panels on my barn, you know, and having that added to the power supply that we've got here. And I think there's a lot of that possible, where we become more self-sustained and not looking outside. It's like the president now trying to create jobs at home. That's what we need to do right here. You know, create the ability for people to work locally, you know, more professional type people. We've got the university here, but boy, I'd sure love to see a technical college in this area to provide kids with the ability to do welding or, you know, maintenance of various sorts, because these things are essential. So there, you know, there's an awful lot of stuff that we can do right now to kind of lay the groundwork for what's to come.
Let me pick up on that, Lee, and I'd like to know the board's thoughts on a couple of matters that tie into that. One being climate change.
Yes.
What will happen, what could happen, what do you see as happening, whether it's in the adaptation side, preparing for something that may come, or mitigation, trying to reduce it. What's your vision of the county in that sphere? And then also sort of the diversity and inclusion piece. You talk about wanting to grow the population. You'll see some data coming out in the next week and a half that strongly suggests we're not growing our own population.
No.
And there's a county not all that far from yours, which the county board chair frequently says, you're not from here unless you have 4 generations in the cemetery. And so there's some big swings in perspective about this stuff. What do you all hold a vision for the county in relation to those 2 items?
State those 2 items again, please.
General climate change, the county's role to mitigate or become resilient against climate impacts, or to take advantage of the opportunities, or not.
Well, yeah, I think there's opportunity. Troy, CBS News just did a study, and the ideal city in the nation they picked for all climate change was Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So I think we're close enough that we could bask in their radiance there.
So Troy, you know, I mean, this grant that is, you know, made possible part of this effort of doing the strategic plan, the majority of that grant is to look at economic resiliency with having to do with floods and other, which are all related to climate change. So, I mean, I guess to me, that's sort of, I think it's essential for the county board, but I think it's also kind of being addressed in that study. So I would say as a vision, we definitely need to be looking to the future to be more proactive instead of reactive to flooding and other sort of, you know, for us, it's usually an excessive flooding event, but even other, our economy with agriculture, you know, we have a very large agricultural economy, and clearly, you know, farmers have been having issues with their crops and other aspects that are being directly impacted by climate change. So I think we need to be mindful, and I think we need to be working towards being more proactive and having mitigation strategies and incorporating that into how we do everyday business, you know, making sure that we're having conversations when they're building highways about, are there things we can be doing to mitigate flooding when we're building that road? You know, the health department, is there educational things we should be doing because the ticks are going crazy in the new climate that we have. So there's all sorts of ways that I think we could be more proactive instead of just reacting whenever there's a flood or something like that.
I'm not sure what the county's role will be, but kind of the intersection of those 2 issues you brought up are, you know, we can call them climate refugees. The people from other places that recognize they can work from home and this is a nice area would, as Marty and others have said, create housing pressure, but it's also going to be a big culture clash. There's already some of that in rural. I mean, I'm a newcomer here. Luckily, I was raised on a farm, so I can fake it. But a lot of people that are going to be coming in rural areas, it's a different culture, and there's some of that already, a little bit of tension, and it's going to be something we'll have to manage, because I think it'll be, it could become worse.
Okay. When I bring those up again, I walk the line here. I follow a lot of what happens and future trends and that sort of thing. And so I do feel incumbent upon bringing some issues to you all to consider. That said, I'm not a resident, a stakeholder, or a shareholder. I guess I'm a stakeholder if I get in that car wreck. But no, I think it's. I appreciate the conversation, and I like that, Melissa, you captured it. You know, whatever it may be, being proactive and not reactive, incorporating these sort of things into everyday conversations. Yeah.
And Troy, on the climate change thing, you probably already know about this. But just in case not, or you don't remember it, we did pass a resolution on climate change in the last term. It was pretty centered on flooding, but you know, the county board has taken a position of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting. I think I saw that show that you were talking about, and they say places to be safe. If you want to be safe from potential impacts of climate change, you got to be far enough inland to avoid the coastal flooding, far enough north to avoid heat waves, far enough west and north to avoid hurricanes, and far enough east to avoid wildfires. And then have plenty of fresh water. That pretty much puts you in the Great Lakes Basin, doesn't it? So anyhow, that was one take, yeah. Okay, so I've got for aspects of your vision that could be incorporated here. Population, let's bring this up here so you can, those of you who are visual may take a peek as well. Population and economic growth to fund services. You need a larger population. You want to strive for a balanced budget. I put down there, Marty, fiscal solvency, sound financial management. Tapping into, you know, you're not here to make a profit, right? A county board in shape to address the challenges that will come in the future, enabling clear roles among the staff. This speaks to the transition you're currently going through, so you can enable greater efficiency, efficient and effective government, improving resilience and flexibility, being prepared for economic volatility, having strong infrastructure, whether it's good roads or broadband, enabling people to support renewable energy, or excuse me, enable, prepare, support renewable energy if it's coming into the county. I like that self-sustaining and resiliency, the aspect that you brought up. And then looking to the future to be more proactive and not reactive to, for instance, flooding, incorporating some of these mitigation strategies into everyday conversations. So we've got resilience, we've got preparation, we've got fiscal solvency, financial management, population growth, efficiency, and effectiveness. Is there anything you'd like to change about the county? I guess some of these require change. Anything that you're doing that you maybe need to not do? Anything, any greater pivots? You've already pivoted pretty well with the county administrator, but.
I think just continuing not to be stuck in a groove of this is the way we've always done things. You know, I'm in my 5th term on the board now, and I've seen that change over the time I've been serving to where we are open to more new ideas, new ways of looking at things, new ways of funding things, new ways of approaching services. And I think we need to make sure that continues.
Good. Okay. I want to make sure we respect your time. I said 7:30, so I want to get there. I'll stick around a little bit after this if anybody wants to kick around any additional thoughts or send any thoughts my way. You have my information, I believe, to send anything my way if something comes to mind after this. But I do want to dive in here. I did promise or threaten homework. I'm not sure which it was. I would like to have a volunteer if we could. So I'll send this information to you, but I'd love to have somebody help draft a mission statement or mission statements. You can have a couple of iterations for folks to reflect upon. And then someone also to draft a vision statement or statements based on what we've captured here.
So I would take a stab at the mission statement. This is Melissa.
Thanks.
Since nobody just jumped right in there.
And this can be a team effort. You know, we can work together on this. Anybody like to try the vision? Every once in a while in a group, there's that person who got a college degree in English and they're like, oh, I got to use my degree. And they want to write this up, but we don't have any unused English degrees out there.
I mean, I can take a stab at both if people, and then I will be calling people to get their input if that's what people want to do, unless someone would else.
Melissa,
yeah.
Melissa, this is Chairman Brewer, and I will help you in that endeavor. But my keyboard and transmission skills aren't so great. So yeah. As long as you're going to handle that part of it, I will help you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Good, appreciate that. And then everyone else will have a bit of homework as well. You'll be getting some information in the mail. I'd like you to the degree you can, and I know everyone's busy, to the degree that you can, start doing some thinking and sketching around a preliminary SWOT analysis so you can come 2 weeks from now prepared. You'll be getting data from me, a packet of data. It's going to have demographic information, some economic information, things that impact or could potentially impact the county and its operations. And so as you think through that, I'd like you to start sketching some of this, and you'll get a form like this. So the internal factors to the county, your strengths, the things you do well, you can capitalize on. So too your weaknesses, internal aspects to the county government. Where do you need to improve? What do you not maybe fully tapping into? And then the external factors, opportunities, anything from a funding source that's sitting around out there to a future partnership you're not leveraging. And then threats, what things could impact the county down the road, and thinking about what you can do about them. To help this a little bit, you can break it down a different way, and you'll get this. We call it a PEST analysis. It's an acronym. PEST is political, economic, social, and technological. Again, this may be breaking it down too much, but sometimes compartmentalizing some of this can help. So, you know, the political aspects that could impact or support the county can include anything from stimulus funding. It seems we're doing that these days. Regulation, any of that aspect. The economic could be, well, bigger picture stuff. Obviously, we have inflation and unemployment, but could also be your basic industries, your local manufacturing and food-based industries. Are those things an asset or liability? Social aspects, culture, education, your demographics we'll talk about, and then technological, which I think is something we're thinking about. Is there technology out there that could help the county be more effective and efficient, for instance? Are there opportunities out there to deploy some new technology or upgrade? So thinking about the SWOT analysis through these lenses may help. So I'll be sending this out to you hopefully within the week, so you can start chewing on that and thinking it over. And so I want to get you off a minute over. February 10th is when we'll be together again. Does this time frame work? I did get one question if we could move it from 7 to 9 as opposed to 5:30 to 7:30. Is there a sense that one might be better than the other?
I would prefer later. I'm missing my supper right now, so 7 to 9 would be great with me.
Is anyone strongly opposed to that? Is that a challenge? I know it lines up with your county board meeting timeline, so maybe that's a better time.
Whatever, it's fine with me.
Okay.
I made it tonight, so.
Okay, all right. I've heard 7 to 9 a couple of times, so we'll maybe, Clint, I'll be in touch with you and we can shuffle that from 7 to 9. And that way folks can have some supper. And,
that sounds good.
You're not hangry when you show up. And then I'll just hold this up here. This is my contact information. Again, I think you have it. Maybe I don't need to keep it up here. I won't hold it up, but you know, give me a call, cell phone, whatever it be, if you want to kick any of this stuff around. So the last thing is I really appreciate you folks sticking through. I like this. I learned a lot, and I like hearing where you're going. So thank you all very much for your time and sharing.
Say, Troy, before you leave, this is Lee. Melissa, if you need any extra help, I'd be willing to help you. having been in the service, I learned long ago never to volunteer for anything, but I'd be willing to help her out with the writing of this and putting it together along with Marty. And the second thing is PBS put out a good special not too long ago, and it was called Kiss the Ground. And it has to do with, you know, we've got trees and grasses, and as you know, we do a lot of carbon dioxide, and trees provide oxygen for us. And it was a program as to what to plant, how to plant, you know, with trees and grasses to maximize the amount of oxygen given off in an area. And with Brazil burning up right now, and with, you know, all the good stuff going on, we're losing all of our sources of oxygen. So we're going to be hurting in the not too distant future. So we need to do everything we can nationally and locally to try and mitigate that problem.
Well,
so help Melissa, and then kiss the ground.
Good, thanks. We'll bring that lead to the future meeting. I appreciate that, and you all are certainly free to go and enjoy your evening. And again, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Ted, for what you've done.
Yeah, you bet.
Thanks, Troy.
Good job.
Thank you, everyone.
Troy, are we doing vision and
thanks
mission?
for spending your evening with us too, Troy, away from your family.
Yeah, no problem.
Troy, do you want the vision and mission statement for that before the next meeting? Is that the plan, to present it at the next meeting?
Yeah. Does that give you? It gives you 2 weeks. If I could just send you the raw PowerPoint, so you can.
Yeah, can you do that right away? Because just a reminder, I'm out of town actually for the next meeting. So,
yep.
But I will be attending remotely from where I'm at. But I probably want to have it finished before we hit the road. So yeah, if you could send me that. And then I'll be in touch with Marty and Lee to kind of flush things out.
Yeah. Okay. And the slides are raw, but you can scroll down. You'll find where they are.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Hey, thank you all.
Yeah.
Troy, do you have time for one question?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'm not going
to... We touched on environmental protection and such. Do you deal with any organizations that are kind of on board, or yourself, if you've done any investigation with drawdown.org? It's kind of it's a nonprofit organization. They do like a global studies, and their whole thing is to reduce greenhouse gas. And so they evaluate like agricultural systems or cement production or transportations or buildings, or all these different facets on how to reduce greenhouse gas. Are you familiar with that, or any organizations you work with kind of try to include that in some of their policy at all?
No, I've just pulled it up actually. No, I'm not familiar with it, Clint. What I'm preparing to send out with the data packet, we've been pulling a fair amount of information related to climate impacts around the region, but or to the to kind of the driftless Midwest. But I've not come across this. How would you like this incorporated, or in what fashion do you see this?
Oh, so I came across it because I'm a TED geek, and they gave a pitch on TED. So their whole thing was trying to show with greenhouse gas emission, like a lot of it is different human behaviors with agriculture and beef production and all these other things that you really don't think about, and to try to everybody doing their small bit to reduce in these other fashions, whether it's energy saving with keeping lights off, and the whole mindset is everybody kind of does their own little part to reduce it. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is just an example that sparks my mind. If there's other solutions out there that other ordinances or policies or things like that tries to do it, I'm not looking to try to reinvent a wheel or anything. It was just something that I was wondering if anybody's kind of picked up on something like this and is implemented it in their policies.
No, I've not seen this. No, and I that's one of the things I want to get a better sense of is what the county's role or position might be. Is the position to really help mitigate and reduce carbon, or is it to do that, but primarily work on the adaptation side to reduce the impacts, to be energy independent, right?
Yep.
Those things, I don't know. I wonder, when we talk about aspirations and capabilities, I wonder how much there is, I guess it's a 10-year plan.
Well, yeah, I think it's a down the road thing. Like I visualize of from previous county experiences where when resolutions went through, there was always a signature block in like Clark County where the controller would write off on understanding to make sure there's, understanding any type of financial impact. And I know some counties have also added like their signature block from like their public health officer, that understanding that, part of our policy is we want to make sure that our public health is aware of actions the government is taking and is having a chance to, to see it. They can't like stop it potentially, but that they have seen it. And if they want to make comments about how this impacts public health, I'm kind of visualizing way down the line if things like that are kind of appropriate for local government to also have a check the block on our person that's in charge of our environmental health has also seen this, and they can make their comment, add their comments to the piece of resolution or legislation of saying what type of environmental impacts it could or could not have. Yeah,
you've got a legal review and a fiscal review, and you're talking about there's a health and all policies approach.
There you go. That's the cue. Yep.
Maybe a climate statement on policies. Yeah.
Dreaming down the line. I'll let you get to your family, Troy. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Clint.
Take care.
Yep, take care.
Troy, I had a couple questions in the email I sent you. I was trying to understand how this fits in with the comprehensive plan. And in theory, we were supposed to redo that 10 years after it was done back in 2010. What do you know about that?
Yep. So we wrote that plan, and part of this grant is enabling us to update the comprehensive plans for the cities and villages in the county. Comprehensive planning at the county level is kind of a different animal. Number one, it's just bigger.
Right.
And traditionally, when the first mandate for comprehensive planning came out, they were heavily focused on land use and zoning. So all of our 5 counties, almost all of them, the county plans were effectively a reflection of all the township plans.
I gathered that from Richland's, but it also, again, the statute says it's supposed to be reviewed in 10 years. I don't see any evidence that anyone's done it. Do you know of anyone?
No, none of our counties have.
Okay.
They'll do some spot zoning here and there. Grant County's kicked it around a little bit. Greene County has. They have things like large CAFO concerns in parts of the county, as well as wind turbine siting stuff. And so they've looked at trying to set that up. But usually what they do is they'll cobble together an ordinance here or do some what we call spot zoning.
And that's why I was wanting to see exactly what the grant proposal wording was. What is the scope we're trying to do here?
So we did not.
I was trying to get a handle on.
We intentionally did not include a county comprehensive plan update.
Okay.
We have comprehensive plans for the cities and villages. They're leaner. There's a kind of more of a confined area. County plans are scope creep. And this is very pragmatic, Steve. How do I ensure that I'm not going to lose my hat and spend all the money doing township stuff as opposed to, a city where I know they'll maybe get some stuff done?
Yeah.
I didn't have enough time to create a budget or even a budget for that kind of thing. So what we came away with was this strategic plan, which can help the county focus its operational efforts, as opposed to how are we going to zone this stuff for farmland preservation and where are we going to do land development and some of that stuff, which was historically part of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff we've talked about really affects land use or vice versa. So we're still in that realm.
Yep. And maybe that's something that comes out of here. Maybe that looking again at the comprehensive plan is something that comes out of here. It should be done by statute, Steve, but there's also no comprehensive planning police who come.
Yeah, I know. Or the funds. But and I'm not saying we need to. What I'm just trying to understand is if we're not doing that, then I'm trying to get a handle on the scope that we are trying to do. And I'm getting there. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I can send that around. There's really four big areas, or 5 big areas of this grant. There's the municipal comprehensive planning processes. So we're in Lone Rock right now. In the spring, we'll be moving to Richland Center, and then over to Boaz in late summer. And then I'm on the board to get Yuba and Casanova engaged. So we're moving around the community in that sense at the municipal level.
So that's going to be the kind of like the input piece where our meetings, and then the ones with those villages that will get thrown in the hopper, so to speak.
Yeah, and we have a series of about 5 of those meetings, and that'll be a city or village comprehensive plan. So there's a strategic plan. This plan is another aspect of the grant. There's workforce attraction aspects that we're kind of building as we go. And that's Kate Koziel from our office is working with Jason Glassbrenner and Marty Richards. They're meeting with businesses and figuring out how we can support what the businesses are doing to attract workforce. And what the businesses so far are telling us is
housing.
What's that?
Housing.
Housing is a part of it, yeah, but also just market the county.
Okay.
Get out there and sell yourself and let people know this is a place worth living in. Because we're not on the radar for a lot of folks, and so they've been working on that.
I kind of insinuated in my note to you, I have mixed feelings about that. I'm just worried that we might be setting ourselves up for our own bubble. That it sounds good right now, but that it may turn quickly on us. That's the only thing I'm worried about. That we worry more about a balance between what services and what our population is, and not try to force it, if that makes sense.
Are you worried about growing too fast or having too much population, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think it's that unlikely that we could have another Great Depression last several years, and if that happens, what does that do to the infrastructure and the investment we might be, on the brink of committing to? Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I'll give you a bit of a preview here of some of the things that you'll be getting. Here's some general demographics. You can see this is your Richland County population age 65 and over. As opposed to your prime workforce age 20 to 64.
Isn't that just the baby boomer bulge going through? Isn't that all that is?
Well, that's going through, but then their children are leaving. Kids aren't coming back.
But you're right, there is that.
So if all the baby boomers had the babies and all the babies stayed here, we would still see this age 65. Yes, we wouldn't see this. And I gave you an example, that orange line. So the bars are total numbers of projected age 65 and over folks. The orange line and these percentages are the percentage of the total population that is 65 and over. So if you go to the city of Reedsburg and you map this, you're going to see these bars growing because of exactly what you said, the baby boom population.
Right.
What you're going to see, though, is the orange line going down.
Okay.
Because there's a greater number of folks moving in. So the percentage of the whole is not getting bigger.
Well, I guess what I'm arguing is that I don't necessarily think we want to grow. And I could be wrong, but I'm just worried that if things go south, that we won't have help from the state. We won't have federal help. We'll have whatever we have. And you'd rather have people that are in balance with the what you can produce in your county. Anyway, the other thing I was going to ask is is this effort going to be able to get any of the 2020 census data as part of your input, or is that not going to come out in time?
Yeah, no, that I think here in a couple of months, the legislature will get some of the 2020 data so they can do their districting or redistricting. The general public doesn't get a bulk of that data until almost 2022.
Okay.
By the time they,
massage it and all that stuff. No, I figured that would be the case.
Well, and the redistricting is really only based on raw numbers, total numbers of human beings. The census data that we find valuable talks about age breakdown and income breakdown, and that stuff just takes longer for them to put together. So,
yeah.
Yep.
Well, I know I'm sounding like I'm, raining on the parade, but I'm just worried about what. I mean, you read this stuff all the time about the ridiculous economic bubbles and all the resource limits we're bumping up against. I just don't see the curve going up. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I read your email to some of my staff, and man, I got 3 little kids and a lot of heartburn. You know, what the heck are they gonna inherit?
Well, and I'm never sure how much to inject that into the full group thing. Like I say, I'm still new at this, and I'm not sure how to play my hand. Anyway, go home and eat some supper. I taking enough of your time.
No, that's good. Hey, I appreciate this, Steve. Thank you.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, bye.